once again, and welcome to the Sports Events Entertainment Network. I'm Catherine Nero, and thank you so much for joining us today. We've got a lot to talk about today. What a very big day in the city of Houston. And so today we welcome Janis Burke, who is the CEO of the Harris County Houston Sports Authority. She's been in that role since 2006. She's also the third chief executive and the first woman to hold that position since the inception of the organization in 1997. So Janis, thank you so much for joining us today.
My pleasure. Great to be here.
You mentioned you're wearing your Astros earrings. It's a big day in Houston. You guys are doing a lot today.
We are. So let's hope we can go all the way to the World Series. But what a run it's been. 6 years in a row we've made the postseason. So it's been really fun.
So your position running the Harris County Houston Sports Authority, first of all, that organization is in its 25th year now. So let's talk about the successes that you've seen over the years with all kinds of great stuff from the addition of new stadiums, new events, and of course, we're going to get to that FIFA World Cup bid here coming up in just a little bit. But first, let's talk about what you've seen over these last 25 years and the years that you've been in charge with this organization.
Yeah, so I came in 2006. It's been quite a run, but if you go back even before my time and play off of that 25-year theme, you know, Houston has always had sports, been part of sports. We had the Astrodome, which was kind of tagged the eighth wonder of the world. But 25 years ago was kind of a tumultuous time with the sports scene here in Houston. The Houston Oilers wanted a new stadium. They did a handshake deal with the county to kind of upgrade the Astrodome. And they had been threatening to leave, and the county and city said, no, we can't build a new stadium, but we'll tell you what, we'll give you some money. You can upgrade it, which they did. And then a year later, they left anyway to become the Tennessee Titans. And so there were a lot of angry citizens. A lot of people were upset about it. Now we would have to go and try to solicit and get another NFL team, and an NFL team was not going to come if we didn't build a new stadium. And it's really interesting because we ended up being able to pull it off, right? So we created this sports venue district that collected taxes, and through the projection of the taxes that would be collected, we were able to issue bonds, and our organization was birthed into existence. But if you look at the way we're structured and what happened during that time, is you had the Houston Astros also being courted by other cities and saying they were going to leave, and then you had the Houston Rockets, and so everybody was kind of jumping in saying we all need new stadiums, and it was really unheard of at that time for a city to build 3 of them, within a couple of years.
It's unheard of now to build 3 stadiums.
So it was pretty amazing what they were able to accomplish. It was before my time. I can't take credit for that structure, but it's been a really sound structure. And although through state government and legislation we were allowed to exist, it was given back to the local government. So the mayor and city council appoint half of my board, the county commissioners appoint the other half, and together the city and county appoint our chairman. And so that's kind of how we are run. And also the local citizens had a say. So we couldn't spend any of those tax dollars we were collecting on projects unless the citizens voted yes. So a very unique situation, but it's worked really well. And I really think that the rebirth of our downtown area started with those stadiums. When the citizens said yes, and we went out and we spent the dollars, you go back in time, that's really when you saw everything start to happen downtown. So it's been quite a run. And then, of course, later we merged into the sports marketing agency of record for the city and county. And we were just looking at it. If you count up the events that the Sports Authority has bid on and hosted, and you count, the big mega events like All-Star Games and things that we have been able to attract because of the new buildings, it's over $6 billion. So wow. It was, and that doesn't count World Series or concerts or any of the things that our teams, who are our tenants, are putting on in those buildings. So if you look at we put $1.2 billion into the buildings, but the return has been really worth it.
You mentioned a little bit about the way your organization is different, say, from a traditional CDB or a sports commission. Explain that setup in some best practices maybe that you can share with those listening and watching.
I think a lot of people are afraid of government. They think, gosh, if it's government, it's got to be harder to run. In a lot of ways, it's easier because we do have this direct connection with our city and county. So we're on the forefront if there is, for instance, land available that the city owns and they want to, they'll call us and they want to expand some project and say, hey, Janis, what do you think? What do you think we should do with this land? And that's how we were able to get a new, the world's largest skate park and bike park. And of course, we leverage other organizations that work and partner with us. It's not just the Sports Authority, but we bring our expertise to the table. When the Dynamo and Dash, which is our Major League Soccer, we have a pro men and pro women's team. When they came to Houston, they were going to spend their own money, private dollars, to build a stadium, but the city and county were donating the land. We were creating a tax incremental zone around it. We were giving them some infrastructure items, pulling, like public works type things, whether it's water lines and things like that over. And so that because of that donation part, they involved our organization, said, well, why don't you guys become the landlords and negotiate a lease with them, because there is this public side to it. And because we were at the table, I was able to get those people that were spending their own private dollars to expand the footprint so that we could also play rugby. And you don't necessarily have that if you don't have the government public side of it. So I think that is to our advantage. We also are the landlords to the pro team. So they're really our tenants. We have this very unique relationship, and it works well when we're trying to partner together to bring events, or like our Houston Sports Awards are televised. It's like a Grammys where we carpet the streets, and or the ESPYs, any of those big award shows. It's really helpful because we have all the team owners and all the team presidents, and we have the professional sports players on the carpet. We issue about 150 media credentials for that event. Wow. Because everyone and anyone who touches sports is at that event. So I think it's a unique relationship. And then we run very much like all the other sports commissions, where if you were to step inside our organization, it feels very much like a corporate and for-profit. And the way that, we really operate is we operate with a sense of urgency. We operate as if this is a business enterprise, keeping our citizens in mind, of course.
25 years, we've pointed that out at the very beginning. There's been a lot, and you've mentioned a lot of the contributions and some of the projects you guys have dealt with. Is there one or two that stand out to you as the ones you're most proud of?
Oh, they're all so different, as you crawl into the skin of these events that you're hosting and you're bidding, you want to make sure that you're putting your fingerprint, your community's fingerprint on it, and leaving a lasting legacy. Everything we do, there's a component of that. What can this do for our community? How does it better our community? And so, whether it's transplant games, in Texas, Texas was second to the last on the donor registry list, even though we're this really big state. Right here in Houston, we have the world's largest medical center. We were second to last, and there were lots of reasons for that. But by hosting the World Transplant Games and using that as a platform, we were able to go from about 2 million donors to over 12 million donors.
Wow.
on the registry today, and that was through the messaging, and sporting events give us that avenue. If it's a Final Four, for instance, which we're hosting next year in 23, the Read to the Final Four actually started here in Houston. And that started with a conversation with our Houston Independent School District, which is one of the largest in the country. And we said, look, you have all these kids, these are future college-bound students. How do we connect with you, and what would be meaningful? And they said, gee, we don't know. Right now, we're just struggling with reading. Our kids come from single-family homes. A lot of them don't have access to books. They're not read to. So we're struggling with our reading scores. And that's where that whole concept of, well, let's do during March Madness, when you start with the full bracket, we'll start with every elementary school, fourth grader or third grader, and log their reading minutes. And so that's how that conversation started.
I love that both of those examples that you gave are beyond sports. It's not just about the athletics and the competition, but about the impact on the community.
Yeah, exactly. So trying to connect that, right? And so now that was 2016, kind of threw it together. We had one school district, and now we have a full-time person, because every city has followed, and that Reach to the Final Four program has gone all over the country for host cities. But now we have a full-time person and 11 school districts involved this year. So millions of minutes are going to be logged. And as the brackets go down and you get to those Final Four schools, there's lots of special things and recognition that they get. So it's really a really fun way to connect sports with the community. And we do that for every single event. So it's hard to pick a favorite, really.
Yeah. Let's talk about one that is a literal world favorite. In just a matter of years, you guys are going to be hosting part of the FIFA World Cup. You were one of the lucky cities chosen for the 2026 World Cup. So now you and your team, you've got about 4 years to get ready for this. So what does this mean for you and for the community?
Yeah, I think we're all still kind of glowing and smiling from that announcement. For me, the strategy started about 10 years ago, believe it or not, because if you look back in 1994, when the USA last hosted World Cup, Houston wasn't even a thought. We weren't at the table. Dallas was, our neighbors, good for them. They were a host city and we were not. And so at the time we knew the USA was going to be bidding again. You know, we knew that they wanted it. And so we felt like we need to take every international soccer event, whether it's a friendly, whether it's a top event to sell tickets to, but let's do everything we possibly can to show the world that we deserve a seat at the table. And so that's what we did. And we hosted many soccer events over those 10 years, probably more than any other city in the United States during that time period. And it was very strategic and it was on purpose, and we spent our dollars there and our focus there. Copa America ended up, we were a host city for that. And so from there, of course, when the World Cup came out and you look at all the cities, they're all great cities. They all have really good venues. All of them want this event. They want to host it. And it's not easy documents to sign. There's a lot of hard work that goes on. And so I give every city that made it into that final mix credit, because it's really hard work to make these work. And so once we were one of the 17 cities, and at the time they were telling us they were going to pare it down to 10 US cities, I knew with everything else I have going on, being the landlord to the teams, and we've got Men's Final Four next year, and college football playoffs in 24, and Junior Olympics, AAU Junior Olympics in 25, I knew that my time, it wasn't going to be enough. And so I went to at the time he was the president of our professional men's and women's soccer team, Chris Canetti, and I said, would you come and help us? It will probably only be a year. And I don't know what's going to happen afterwards. I know you're leaving a permanent post for this temporary one.
Right.
That if we don't make it, you may not have a job, but would you do it? I think we can win this. And you could get up every single day thinking about this, and that will relieve me. And so he did, to his credit, and brought us to the finish line. We didn't know COVID was going to hit. We didn't know it was going to last 3.5 years. And he and I had to raise his salary, raise money for, all of the bid, things, the activities that we were doing. And together we did that and made it the 3.5 years. And he stuck in there with me. And so for me, I wanted that win as much for him and all the work he had put in as I did for our community and for myself.
We look forward to that. And speaking of looking forward, 25 years of the Harris County Houston Sports Authority behind you now. What does the next 25 years look like?
People ask that. They say, wow, you're hosting one of the world's largest, if not the largest sporting event. Some argue it's larger than the Olympics because of the viewership. Is at the end of your career. And for me, I think that we're always pushing ourselves to be innovative, to think, what else can we do? And right now we've created a Walk of Fame. We've unveiled a fountain. We came up with this idea during COVID where we're all on a Zoom call and we're like, we do that Walk of Fame where all of our Hall of Famers, sign it, and it's just like Hollywood where you unveil the plaque on the sidewalk. But there's this fountain at the entry that's just kind of a plain Jane fountain. We went to the owners and said, well, what if we, did something, because that's the very start of that sidewalk. And he said, sure, you can wrap it with your messaging or whatever. And I said to my team, well, rather than wrap it with just an advertising message or our logo, what if we did something and put our artists to work? At the time it was COVID, and a lot of our artists here in Houston were really struggling. And it was the same time that we did the art of soccer. We did these soccer balls where corporations could buy them and put them out, almost like the cow parade that Chicago did years ago.
Yes.
Where you buy the ceramic ball and then you hire an artist and put an artist to work. And that really worked, and it was a good fundraiser for us for World Cup. So I said, what if we take that same concept and we put an artist to work, and we also this could be the beginning of that Walk of Fame. And so we did. I had no idea that it was going to be like 500,000 of these little tiny teeny tiles, and 2.5 years worth of work to get it done. But we ended up bringing in some University of Houston artists, art students to work with a well-renowned MLB commissioned artist here that lives here locally. And everybody loved it. It was a win-win all the way around, gave those students great experience, put our artists to work, and then we unveiled it as kind of the tail end of our 25-year celebration. But it's things like that that also create a visitor destination, or a place because it's right a couple blocks from where our conventions take place, and so people can go walk over there. So we want to continue down that path of just creating what we can do through sports for our community. We really believe sports can change lives, much like Nelson Mandela believed that sports was this unifying factor and could do things the government couldn't do. We believe that, and we take it to heart. So we have lots of things up our sleeve that we're talking about right now for the next 25 years.
Well, we can't wait to see it. Janis, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you.
Janis Burke, of course, taking time out from a very busy time, and we look forward to all of those big events, sports and otherwise, coming up in Houston over the next several years. Thank you guys as well for watching and for listening on Scene, the Sports Events Entertainment Network. I'm Catherine Nero, and I'll see you next time.